Hello and welcome to this small tutorial for beginners for the navigation controls of Maya. We'll start by turning on the grid just to give a bit of a concept of the 3D space, and also inserting a polygon shape. Right then, first of all we will start with the move tool. It's pretty self-explanatory. You can either click it up here, or if you hit W on the keyboard, it will give you the shortcut to it. And as you can see, that's what it says on the tin. You can also use the translation coordinates up the top there, where you can adjust rotation and the scale. If you need to get a precise number, like 1, so it's there now, and that's a handy way to do it. Next we have the rotation tool, which is this one here. Also you can hit E on the keyboard. That will also give you a jump, a nice little shortcut to do. Also the same. Also you can use these on the side here. These also help out the translation tool and things. If you've gone off a bit like this already, if you hit F on the keyboard, it will frame that shape or polygon, depending on what you've got in there. So your camera is now locked to it. To rotate, you can hit Alt on the keyboard, and then left mouse button, and it will rotate happily. If you would like to pan across the shapes, say if you've got two shapes, you want to pan across, and that is Alt and middle mouse button. That will help you do that. But if you would like to focus on this shape by itself, if you hit F on the keyboard, it will focus on that shape. And then if you'd like to focus on this shape again, just hit F again, and it's back to this shape. There's also a zoom, because middle mouse button's quite jumpy. It's just like a snap zoom. So if you hold Alt and right click, you can get a bit more control. So if you like to get close up, because sometimes when you're close up and you try to zoom in with the mouse button, it'll ping right into the shape, and you don't want that, because you want to get close as you can without losing track of where you are. So quite often the Alt right click is an ideal choice for that. There's also the scale tool, which is R, but also you can click on this. Click it twice though, because you get the tool options. Come to that in a minute. And then you can scale it and then rotate it. And then as you see, it's now the axis of the shape has changed. Well, it hasn't changed, it's followed the shape. So if you want it to still be related to the world, you can click on this little tool up here, the tool settings, or double click again on that, and that also gives you the tool settings. In some cases it would be snapped to here. Oh, get rid of that. There we go. In some cases it could be snapped to here, so don't be alarmed if it's either in a pop-out box or snapped. You can just simply find it up here, and then it's normally, if you hover over it, it's not going to do it now, watch it. There you go. There's tool settings, and then we've got channel box, and so on. Basically, you want to come into the tool settings, click on the shape, and say you want it to be object orientated to the world, and then that gives you the axis of the world again, so you can do that, whereas if it was orientated to the object, it would be shooting up like that, and sometimes that isn't what you want. And sometimes that isn't what you want, because that is when you're trying to move it across, you might find yourself veering off because it's based on a 3D world, and obviously depth, so you can't slide it across like you think you could. That's always a handy tool to keep in mind. To get your... Sorry, 1 second. There we go. There's also tabs down here you can... so you don't have to have like 3 or 4 windows popping out. That makes life a lot easier. If you slide it over there, you can book it right as long as you get in the right spot. Let's transform, put these all 0. What else? Also, we will go into a bit more of that modelling now. If you say if you want to just affect these faces here, if you hold right click and go to vertices, or vertexes, sorry, you can select the ones you want to influence, which is always handy, but also you can go to the tool settings again and hit normal, and then this will, it's not ideal because this is a 90-degree cut, but it'll give you the average of the normal. So as you can see, it's taking those faces into account, and it's basically copying the, well, going, oh yeah, you're 90 degrees, you're 90 degrees, so we've got the 45-degree angle. So yeah, it's not ideal for this shape, but when you get into a bit more complex shapes, you'll as you can see, this normal's facing straight up, and you'll be able to like go, oh yeah, it just helps to have that little bit of more control over your shapes. Another nice feature is faces, where you control just the face, but if you combine that with, say, the extrude tool, then you can just pull it straight out. I'll go into more detail with the extrude tool in other tutorials, but yeah, as you can see, you can do some crazy shapes with it. And to undo, it's Control Z. There you go. Oh, I messed up. And then undo. It also takes into account how many times you click as well. So as you can see, it's undoing where I've clicked. So just make sure you keep that in mind when you do a big mistake and then you start doing a load of like movements with the clicking, and you can't. As you can see, you have to keep going back until you find the right undo. To bear that in mind. Another nice feature is shaders. So say if you want to color something nice, these all have their basic shader on. Let's find the attribute editor, which is this one here. If you go along here, you can quite often find the basic shader, which is always a Lambert 1, which, if you look carefully, I say carefully, it affects both of them, because it's a basic shader. It's on every single mesh that gets added into the scene. But if you hold right click on it and you go assign favorite materials, this is only the quick way, wouldn't recommend it for everything, and then hit Lambert or whatever other color, well, type of shader you want. If you want something shiny, it's probably best to go Phong. Lambert is nice. Blinn is like a flat matte color. So it's depends on what you're making. If you're making glass, if you're making just like a wood texture, it just depends on the situation and the material. As you can see now though, there are different colors. So if I go to Blinn 3, it's called now, but you can change that in the attribute editor to, I don't know, so we'll call this one red because we're not doing anything fancy. It should change, but it hasn't. I wonder why. Oh, there we go. Basically all it was the shader hadn't assigned itself properly because I was playing around with the other shaders, so it messed up when I tried to change the colour. So I just reapplied it, went Lambert, and then as you can see, it works again. Because Maya isn't always the funnest of 3D applications to use, but I find it most pleasing. What else can we talk about? I only want to do the basic overview of stuff because I'll go into detail more later on. I'll also, yeah, I think that's everything we need to talk about this one. I hope you've enjoyed it. If you have, please like and subscribe. I'll have more coming out soon. I'll also start going into more detailed stuff such as like environment art, as I predominantly do environment art, so I would enjoy showing you guys my workflow and hopefully you'll learn something. Thank you very much. Have a nice day. Bye.